miners leave little data logs telling me exactly what to look for, even if it makes no sense. Like the guy who was smuggling shit made a data pad telling anyone who found it where to find his stash. There are droids in almost every single room that aren't particularly fun to fight. The battle music is this repeating 15-second loop of annoying brass instruments that doesn't know what to do with itself after I defeat an enemy. The most interesting part of this area is this gray guy who landed and didn't come out of his ship. And he probably won't until we try to leave. I have no interest in doing anything because I haven't been given anything to do besides leave this place. It's just a really shitty introduction to the game. And I can't help but wonder how many people pick this game up only to get bored with it during the first hour. Eventually, I do make it to another recording, showing Corta and his crew trying to hook it out of here before reactivating all of the droids to attack the rest of the miners. But something went awry, and some of the droids pop in to give Corta and his squad the old Al Capone maneuver before mocking them and letting the security camera system know that they reversed the door code to prevent escape. The way that these droids talk remind me heavily of HK, which, kind of leads to this whole theory that HK is the one that's trying to capture and or kill me. But I'm sure we'll find out. As far as the starting area has been, I did enjoy the logic area, which is a continuation from the first game's interesting puzzles. Basically, you know the first three numbers from the guy who kept getting cut off in mid-sentence. Looking at the logs that we got earlier, which show a bunch of ellipses, X's, and dashes, we can determine that ... is 3, -X is 17, and -... is 13. This means that an ellipse is 1, an X is 5, and a dash is 10. So the last two entries are 5 and 7. Then we reverse the sequence since the droids did that earlier instead of just setting a new code for some reason. Regardless, I did enjoy this puzzle. After I get past the turbo lift, I meet up with Kreia, who finally joins my party. An interesting thing to note here is that I expect her to be leaning more towards the light side, but she seems to be right in the middle, or almost a little more dark side oriented from what I can tell. She even has one or two dark side powers at her disposal in addition to light. I found that surprising, but ultimately pretty cool. So guess who's been helping to kill all of the miners? Yep, exposition droid. I know not everything needs to be a heavy plot twist, but this seemed like a lot of running around to figure out almost nothing. At least he fills us in a little more about the main character's background here. Apparently our guy has been on the run, evading the Jedi Order for years now since the Mandalorian Wars, in which he apparently was exiled from the Order. After booking passage on the Harbinger, which this HK unit was already on, the droid sabotaged the ship right as the Ebon Hawk was discovered. Then I assumed the HK unit jumped from the Harbinger to the Ebon Hawk, all because he had orders to kidnap the last remaining Jedi for his rich master's collection. I'm just glad we're finally getting somewhere with this plot, honestly. So after taking out HK-50, we try to get out of here. This is where the game introduces something that really sets it apart from its predecessor, the companion influence system. Basically, the game's dialogue still tends to stick to three options, ranging from, I'm a good guy, let's save everyone, to, why yes, that is indeed a plan. Maybe a good one, but possibly bad. To, if you so much as move your lips to tell me anything other than yes, sir, I'll see if your body glows in the dark with a lightsaber jammed into it. But then there's more companion-specific dialogue which affects how much your companions are willing to follow you and respect you. So you can tell Kreia that she's a dumb old lady, or you can apologize respectfully when she asks you why you're standing around and not saying anything. And every companion respects a different type of response. So HK, for example, would obviously enjoy it if I were more cruel towards the idea of the miners dying, or more of Kreia's dialogue choices might unlock if I have a minimum influence with her rather than a maximum. But moreover, the more a companion respects you, the more their alignment will shift towards your own. I really like this concept, and it really makes me feel like I'd be able to play through as an evil Sith Lord and still be able to fully enjoy the company of the people with me. Unlike the first game where you wind up having to kill off or drive off many of your companions in order to walk down the dark side.
Sir, I just picked up an unusual sound from MedLab.
What the hell was that? It sounded like a bunch of stock sound effects. I don't think this was supposed to be a funny scene, but Christ, it was. So the final pieces of the puzzle are falling into place here, as it's revealed that these idiots were ferrying the main character on the Harbinger to a planet called Telos, when they received a report about the Ebon Hawk being attacked by a Sith warship. The Harbinger went to investigate and found nothing except for the body of this gray guy on the Sith warship. So they took his body to a medical area and looked around for other signs of life on the ship, and found no one because apparently all of these Sith assassins were cloaked. We're talking like 30 cloaked dudes or something who managed to hop from the warship to the Harbinger. Eventually, the gray guy wakes up and joins the assassins to kill all of the Republic officers, and then proceeds to take control of the ship. There was also a point during all of this where HK-50 knocked out the main character by drugging him, based off of the datapad that I found in what used to be the main character's room and the logs of
Just the right amount of buffs too.
HK hit our guy away before Kreia rescued him and attempted to escape on the Ebon Hawk while the Sith ship fired at them, and the HK unit managed to Terminator his way onto the ship in pursuit. I believe that clarifies most of it. The gray guy is still a bit of a mystery, though, as one of the logs tells us that his body is a mass of wounds, his skeleton having thousands of fractures. Honestly, I don't know who or what he is, but it's a really cool design for a villain. Speaking of, looks like the guy finally caught up to us.
He cannot kill what he cannot see.
What the hell are you talking about? Well, that's a familiar sight. At least old Milky Eyes decided to do this before I get a chance to fight Big Gray instead of what happened with Malik in the first game. You know, I really would have loved to have been able to fuck this up by running back into the room with those two. Like, just before this, Exposition Man tells me that he has a bad feeling about what's to come. And the game literally tells me, hey, you should probably save. So Exposition Man is now Divination Man. But then you just carry on as Kreia has to fight Greya. Like, I would have loved to have been able to run back in and get myself killed or something. But yeah, Divination Man and I run off to escape as Kreia takes on her former students. Oh yeah, these are former students. Says so himself. They chat a bit before Big Gray chops off her hand, which looks about as impressive as Ben Kenobi's death. I feel like I've said that before. Oh well, the technology for big cutscenes just wasn't there. Well, apparently my character is linked to Kreia because he feels the pain of her hand being lopped off, continuing the trend of your character being linked to some other character in these games. So now it's, why am I still on fucking Paragus? I've recorded about 4 hours of footage and I'm still here. I get that I explored every nook and cranny. I get that I've been looting and going through every dialogue option and solving puzzles I haven't seen before, but like, this is just the beginning. This is a harrowing nightmare of a beginning. I'm fighting droids again because I have to escape. I mean, I guess I could just run by them, but I want the XP. Why did you build the start of your game this way? Again, Terrace had depth. It had different parts to it. A club, an undercity, the various levels where civilians and gang members occupied. There were things to do, people to meet. I've met a whopping 5 or so characters and fought so many droids that I'm level 7 now. Level 7. I don't know if that's a lot in this game, but it fucking feels like it. So let me run this one by you.
Now with all these asteroids around us, we'd enter hyperspace in pieces. Hold on! This is gonna get a little rocky.
If I wasn't making this video, I'd have uninstalled this game. Seriously though, I know that standards weren't as high back then, but this is a crippling blow to this game. They easily could have cut this entire first part down by half, and it still would have been slightly too long. And then they tossed 50 uncloaked, run-of-the-mill Sith troopers at you like they were just there hanging out on Paragus or the Harbinger and nobody noticed them. It's literally a turret section for the sake of a turret section. Oh, and then Kreia just phases onto the Ebon Hawk as you're escaping. Hell yeah. So after the devs are done hamstringing this game and letting us escape into hyperspace on the way to Telos, we finally get a few more crumbs from the sandwich of the story. So apparently through a string of coincidences that the Force always brings with it, Kreia happened to discover that you were aboard the Harbinger and tried to rescue you by firing up the Ebon Hawk. And then she was knocked out when the Sith attacked as she was making the jump to hyperspace. So then she goes on to explain that you are the last known Jedi, and that your existence is what causes the Sith to hunt you. I don't know what this makes her, but apparently she's just a Force user or something. Then she complains about being handless and invites you to talk where Divination Man isn't. Well, DM continues to be a roguish type who can read people super well and suggests that I go check in on her, stating that she was barely holding back the pain from her hand being butchered. Alright, so here's the deal. The old woman and I have some kind of bond as I...
Now that's what I call lag.
No idea why it exists. So either she's lying or she hasn't figured out what caused it yet, like Bastila in the first game. Secondly, Kreia lets me know that she believes that the Jedi Order were the ones who cut me off from the Force, making me more or less a normal dude again for a while. She doesn't know why, but my character believed that he...
Wait, I'm gonna try something.
...when he served Revan in the Mandalorian Wars. Kreia notes that serving someone who was as corrupt as Revan probably would have strengthened my bond to the Force, not weakened it. This is part of why she believes that it was the Order who forcibly cut me off from it. Thirdly, no one knows what happened to Revan after the events of the first game. The canon storyline was that he returned to the fold of the Jedi Order and defeated Malak, as I did in my playthrough, but afterwards he accomplished little more for the Order or the Republic. And finally, the biggest thing to note here is the behavioral difference of the Sith from the first game to this game. In the first game, the Sith were ever present in daily activities on planets. They were always in your face, some kind of ever-evil dark side power, constantly threatening the galaxy with evil acts. In this game, they've been toned down significantly, supposedly. Kreia says that they're now less about being overt and overzealous and are instead about being a finely tuned machine with a single goal in mind: to assassinate every Jedi in the known galaxy. This means that they've been more trained in assassination rather than over-the-top destruction. If I'm reading this correctly, I really like this change. The issue with the Sith in the last game is how ridiculously evil they were for the sake of being evil. A lot of the times, their ends were to be as cruel as possible rather than accomplishing a victory. Of course, the victory was still important, but a lot of the time, if someone could be treated harshly, they would do it without question. Much like Darth Brandon, or whatever the hell his dumbass name was in the first game. Dude would just come in and start throwing his own men around and start destroying consoles on the flagship just to show how much of a dick he was. The Sith in this game are immediately shown to be more ruthless and cunning, and I really hope this is the case, honestly. Because truth be told, after the constant hammering of Republic planets, there really isn't any further need to annihilate at every given opportunity. Kreia continues to elaborate here, explaining that the goal of the Sith isn't to defeat the Republic, but to defeat the Jedi. She brings up one of the main lessons of the first game, that the Republic has been a stagnant and unmoving force for a very long time, that they haven't advanced or grown as a people, and that the Jedi have been the reason they've continued to be able to sustain themselves despite the lack of advancement. I really like the tone of this game from the front. It's a lot darker and a lot more realistic in a way. While the previous game hinted at the idea of some of the flaws of the Jedi and the Republic, they were still always the good guys, the ones that were meant to succeed and overcome. In this game, they're painted in a lot more flawed light. Kreia isn't here to lecture me and turn me back towards the light and become the chosen Jedi to unite the galaxy against the Sith. She's simply here to bring me back to power, to let me choose my path while helping me to succeed at it. She paints the Jedi Order and by extension the Republic as a very fractured, very idealistic group of people. She paints the Sith as a well-oiled machine of crushing hatred, yet she doesn't drive me towards one side or the other. I don't know why yet, but I do appreciate it a lot more than listening to Bastila's ever-present ranting and raving about the darkness in our hearts. Alright, back to Exposition Man to talk to him about the course that we're on to Telos. I know I haven't used his name yet,
Wow.
but I find him really uninteresting, at least for now. Adden is a roguish type who hates getting along and only seems to care about himself. He's like Kart's opposite side. He hates talking about himself, he's always looking for a way out, and he hates Kreia for treating him like a fool, as does Kreia hate him for being a fool.
Oh, no. Look, I respect your privacy. I mean, when have I ever asked you any questions? I mean, besides that. So, what happened? Don't give me that.
I think it's almost an instant break and cleanse, right?
Sums his character up. So we fly into Telos and immediately get placed under house arrest for potentially being the cause of the explosion on Paragus. Fine.
You will be held briefly in the TSF station until living quarters could be arranged.
What?
Into a video game, boys. 13 years before I started my channel. So I get locked up and a dude comes in to try to assassinate us,
I
claiming to be
know.
an expert bounty hunter of the highest caliber.
The security cameras are... What?
After this, Telos security comes barreling in to act like they're not completely inept. I have to say, compared to the previous game's dialogue, the options that I have here are leagues ahead. Like, you know how I complained about most of the options being good, neutral, or evil? In this one, we get the sarcastic option, except it doesn't suck ass like it does in Fallout 4. The dialogue options don't feel evil, they just feel like I actually feel. That these guys are stunted morons disguised as a security force. But unfortunately, as much as I just applauded the writers and got my writing trophy ready to be shipped out to Obsidian, the sarcastic options have literally as much impact as they do in Fallout 4. Basically, if I pick them, the exact same dialogue plays out. though sometimes they skip some of the niceties which the more civil options garner. I know a lot of these options are just here to make me feel like I can slip better into the main character's shoes, but I've always disliked it when there very obviously wasn't any extra effort put into rewarding the player for choosing those options. Looks like I'll be keeping that writing trophy after all. Alright, so we've gotten to
I made the same mistake.
It's the part of the game where I take phone calls. The first phone call brings about a visitor who tells me that Space Walmart is back and more evil than ever. This time they're buying out and gaining access to all of the planet's restoration contracts, and are using them to fuck up the planet even more than when it got fucked in the Jedi Civil War. Old Slugbug here wants me to speak to his leader, who just wants to help restore the planet. In exchange for my help, the priest will attempt to restore my force powers fully to me, since apparently that's just something he can do. Alright, next call. Next we have this lady. She's the evil option here, and represents Zerka, basically saying that she doesn't understand what restoring nature even means, and that it's going to cost too much money to do something so silly. You know that there's definitely a middle ground here, but I'm guessing that we're not going to get a third caller to tell me that we can restore nature while also building residential and tourist areas. Oh well, back to bed for the third time. So after a brief interim, the station's elite protection squad comes back to tell us that we've been all cleared, but then we have to wait on the station for another Republic ship to pop by in a few days for some reason. I mean, they just cleared us, but yeah, sure. Not like I didn't want to explore this place anyways. Adam explains that Telos is fucked no matter what, since Paragus was the only place keeping the Citadel here fueled. So I don't know how much we're going to be able to accomplish with the whole hippies versus Space Walmart case, but we'll give it a go. So I head out into this sprawling corridor of rooms. I believe they typically call these hallways, but I digress. Snooping around has me finding most of these rooms empty. The ones that do have people in them consist of a droid part seller, a guy who lost the love of his life when he put her up for collateral during a game of space blackjack, and a guy who doesn't want me to steal from him for some reason. That last one, oddly enough, just lets me leave after looting the joint, so, cool, I guess. So I carry on, eventually finding my way to the So I leave as quickly as I can, and I wind up exploring a bunch more. There's a cantina with all of your usual suspects hanging around it.
I might go with a full light party in the future. Yuri, since I got his character board. Yuri, Paladin Cecil, and Kuja.
Here's the top time. Oh, you beat it?
But there might be too many,
I have never been more
might be too many DPS.
for the cantina besides Bazak, which, yeah, no, that's all there is to the cantina. There's a couple of shops to buy things at, there's a medical area with absolutely no one in it, and there are some side characters who all chat every here and there about various events happening around the Citadel and the galaxy, which is a nice touch, but the place is actually starting to feel a lot more like a Terrace 2 at this stage. Actually, most of this place feels really unfinished with how empty these big-ass halls seem to be. Well, we go to escort the droid back, and surprise,
A good call for
who have been hired by Zerg
if you wanna brave shave him.
I still have no weapons, but that doesn't seem to matter, as the other two in my party beat cheeks while I cast buffs. I don't even think I needed to cast the buffs, to be honest. But either way, the game surprisingly doesn't make me escort the droid back manually through waves of thugs, and instead instantly puts me back at the hippies part of the Citadel. So I think I did this in the wrong order. I know I was told to go get my ship whenever, but I kind of just explored instead. And after completing this quest, Kreia goes, yeah, we shouldn't trust those dudes, but they could help us get our ship back. What? Can't we just go get it from the docks?
I regret to inform you that the Endercon is gone. The TSF believes it was stolen and is currently investigating.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So this YouTube channel continues to share the initials of the most incompetent security force in a video game, which makes sense, as I now have to go deal with the exchange to discover the whereabouts of my ship. What I don't understand is that, I guess maybe I'm missing some background information here, but the Telos security is affiliated with the Republic, right? And the exchange is a seedy, dubious group of criminals, which the security droid here actually tells you.
At first, I do skill 1. He only has 3 of his
Sense in that they might be complete
3 of his
assholes,
LD.
but they still tend to do things legally on paper. And it makes sense for them to legally be able to set up here. Why the exchange, though? Like, this protocol droid goes, yeah, they're a bunch of criminals, and they probably stole your ship. They came here to get a foothold on this planet while it's undergoing restoration. What?
A, B,
Our
C,
job to
D, E,
get
F, G.
rid of them? No. I mean, yes, but no.
What?
No, not really.
What? I
Anyways,
don't know.
you're
What's
shooting
the
some
first?
rockers over there. What a silly setting for this planet.
Confirms my fear.
They say.
There is a source of black market weapons and components here on the station.
No, really? Wow, I'd have never guessed that. Do you think that maybe, just maybe,
You got that
it
big
could
mouth
be
right
from
there.
the literal criminal organization which is set up shop here? No, that would be outrageous. These weapons could be coming from anywhere. So I started asking around about this gun and wind up talking to a lady who's pretty high up in this branch of the exchange. She wants to overthrow her boss so that she can become the new boss. And
Oh
promises
my
to help me
God.
get my ship back in exchange for killing her boss. With as forthcoming as she's been about the information here, and how easily she'll let me just walk through the exchange, I'm willing to guess that I'm gonna get a knife in the back after she uses me. But I can tell you this much for sure. There is no way that this boss doesn't try to talk me into helping out his side instead, and killing her off in exchange for his favor. Oh Jesus, what a twist. Anyway, so the boss dies and oh jeez.
Just dead, but Godo's still my boss. I'm shipping you to Narshada, Jedi. Dead or alive.
Oh gosh. Wow, I just can't. Anyway, she's dead too. You know, I think the amount of people telling me how great this game is was not a good thing for the first chunk of it. Because the writing here is subpar at best. I'm actually baffled that I got shoehorned into all of my dialogue options being along the lines of, alright, now the exchange has to leave the Citadel or else. I mean, yeah, I expected that I would have to kill her also, but I assumed it would be more of her saying something along the lines of, okay, thanks for doing my dirty work, now die. And not all three of my dialogue options being something that provokes her.
What?
But whatever. I have now done what the security forces here could never do in a matter of about, 30 minutes.
God dang.
Now it's time to carry out the remainder of their workload by exposing Zerka for the corrupt assholes they are, which, I mean, that shouldn't be too hard, all things considered.
What's there?
In fact, it's as easy as talking
What's
to a
there?
guy in the cantina, talking to a guy out of the cantina, and then talking to a droid inside of the Zerka base. Don't get me wrong, I'm actually glad that this is as simple as it is, because this place sucks. This planet sucks. The introduction to this game sucks. My God, what a way to immediately turn your players off to a game that was so anticipated.
I'm gonna go super low on something I ain't.
I mean, at least Paragus had a very eerie sensation to it, a shroud of mystery in an almost
Yeah, I was
kind of way. It just lasted for way
crazy
too long.
as shit.
This place is just, dude, where's my car? And it's almost like the writers knew how shitty this area was, because they took the exact opposite philosophy of Paragus, where you constantly had to fight droids at every given moment, and instead made this place a big hub full of nothing but subpar backstory and shitty plots. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still giggled about the stupid little droid being manipulated into running out screaming like a banshee and shooting at Zerka.
What are you doing out here?
You're not supposed to leave the mainframe. I think someone needs a memory wipe.
I still enjoyed the intensity of a 1,000 credit wager to enhance your girl's life, and the fact that she didn't want to be rescued only to return to the guy who sent me to rescue her. But it's hardly worth all of this boring slog, especially when the dialogue is as shockingly written as it is. I mean, I helped to put the smuggler away because these guys are basically cardboard cutouts pretending to be security. And while the lieutenant does show me some gratitude, his dialogue is still as hostile as ever when you ask him about helping get to the station, claiming that Paragus is all your fault. At least after Zerka sends a mercenary as a final effort to attack the enemy base, we finally get some real story, as the obvious main villain is introduced to the game. This guy and girl have amazing designs.
What?
The girl looks very much like a younger Freya, so they may be connected. She also looks like a more clothed version of the which is a big plus for plot reasons. And the guy looks and sounds ominous as all hell. You can't understand what he's saying, and I almost prefer that. At least for now. There's a cadence to his speech as if he's chanting every time he talks.
Yeah, Wham's definitely one of my favorite units. He's very well balanced.
The female then goes on about all life in the universe existing to feed his life force. She also says the line. You know the one.
I have felt a tumor, a disturbance in the force.
Yeah, Star Wars. Woo! So yeah, she's sent away to investigate this disturbance, which is no doubt myself and or Freya. I like this setup. Finally.
I usually galvanize at the end. The power up is burst, his actual burst attack. It's an all-white animation.
Anyways, we go through a bizarre sequence of really oddly stitched together cutscenes because the technology back then couldn't handle the seamlessly play CG cutscene after CG cutscene. Like it comes from a 5-second CG scene to a 2-second in-game one to a 1-second CG to a 2-second in-game to a 10-second CG. And there's quite a bit of
They show left me. They said fuck this. They show left me. They said fuck this nigga. They saw that. They said fuck this nigga. What? That show. See him. Sorry, little biatch.
It almost sounds like he's falling asleep at times. Anyways, the guy keeps referring to me as General, which adds yet another layer to this multifaceted puzzle. Apparently, him and I fought together in the Mandalorian Wars, but my guy barely remembers him. He seems to specialize in technician kind of jobs, and can destroy energy barriers and the like with his skill set.
Still ticketing for RCL.
Whereabouts we have been hawk, and we head over to a facility located nearby. So we start sprinting through Walmart mercs, as apparently the devs realized that there was little combat on T-Los up until this point. Eventually we make it down to an
I don't know. The Act 3 Part 2 is supposed to be tonight. I don't know what the rewards are, but it's supposed to be decent. Like 100 plus tickets. I'm gonna make a draw video, I guess, for that. Still not interested on your night. Sorry. Okay.
that if someone is struggling or needs help, that they should be left to struggle, that it will make them a stronger person. It's a really black and white view for someone.
I do like if I don't know now. If I get Onion Iceberg tickets, which I have in the past before, I'll have to go ham for his LD. It would really suck if I just got burst and no LD. That would really suck.